This is the August 28th Leadership Council meeting. Let's start off with welcome and introductions. Are there any members of the public that would like to introduce yourself?
Javier Gomez here with Supervisor Alejo's office.
Luis Alejo.
Thank you so
Mike
much.
Labar.
Roxanne Wilson.
Mia Casey.
Tim Heaven.
Ana Velasquez.
Donna Smith.
Derek Elder, City of Seaside.
Greg Baker.
Jill Allen.
Francisco Naruski, Veterans Transition Center.
Melissa Kroger, Pacific Grove. Linda Gonzalez, Office of Supervisor Alejo.
I'm Lauren Clayton. I'm here as Elsa's alternate with the County of Monterey.
All right, thank you, everybody. We have reached a quorum, and we can open up for public comments.
Can I just make a comment, please? I just wanted to really give a huge shout out to the Housing Authority of the County of Monterey for their heroic efforts of getting the clients that are being displaced from 545 Work Street access to tenant-based vouchers. I think that it's really important that we acknowledge them and the board that had made the decision that allowed them to do it, and also the staff members of both Step Up. I know Dorothy's Place also leaned in to help. Who else? Downtown Streets team, Central Coast Center for Independent Living. I mean, it really was a team effort, so I just really wanted to pause and thank everyone who got involved to get those vouchers to the clients. Thanks.
Hi everybody, Alyssa Kroger, Housing Program Manager with the City of Pacific Grove. Just wanted to share a quick update that in the next couple weeks I'll be sending some information out to the coalition. The City of Pacific Grove, in partnership with HRC Housing Resource Center, is putting on a Peninsula Landlord Workshop on October 3rd in the evening from 6 to 7:30, and our intention there is to try to convene all kinds of community members and partners to daylight their gold standard, their landlord gold standard program, and all of the incentives that they provide to open up units on the peninsula to folks in need. We'll also have resource tables from the Housing Authority of the County of Monterey, Echo Fair Housing, and Downtown Streets team. And we're hoping to use that as a launch board to gauge interest on the peninsula for a follow-up landlord-tenant workshop that's a little bit more robust and involves a potential panel discussion with those organizations mentioned.
Hello, Wes White, Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union, co-president. Checking in today because on Monday we had a Monterey County Homelessness Committee, and if you haven't checked in with that one, Supervisor Askew actually made a lot of really good points and pointed out issues to improve, especially when it comes to just driving people out without connecting them with those other 18 principles that the U.S. ICH, is trying to get jurisdictions to adhere to, and also like the Leave Me Home plan, and how are we going to collaborate now moving forward to maintain our residents in our own jurisdictions and actually give them a little bit of dignity, respect, and dominion over their own life, and an address, where people can be, or at least floating around, as long as they're maintaining minimal health and safety standards. We're coming to Salinas right now, the Police Community Advisory Committee, to speak about due process. If people are on public property, that they should be posted a notice and referred for services, especially if they're in cars. They're already doing everything they can. There's nothing more they can do. And there's nothing more you can do, and everybody just needs to understand that and let them stay put, like a shelter in place or something. Provide services, porta potties, running water, electricity, and actually support our residents. If you want to see them reintegrate back into society, we have to be supportive. And please help me stop the sweeps.
I do think that we should maybe schedule, I think it's crucial right now that we schedule something to discuss what's happening with these camping bans in different areas and collaborate more on them. There's a lot of health and safety concerns that I've been coming to realize. There's a lack of comprehensive plan with there's a vagueness of services being offered, there's a lack of clear goals and implementation plans, and then we're turning away from evidence-based practices here, and the cost efficiency of these punitive measures. I think we need to have like a meeting amongst the COC to discuss these issues and a plan moving forward.
We extend our gratitude to the Leadership Council for welcoming us, Casey Powers from Interim Inc., and myself, Jill Allen from Dorothy's Place, as the new appointees representing the Monterey-San Benito County's Coalition of Homeless Services Providers. Casey and I are committed to serving as a conduit of information between the Coalition and the Leadership Council, and we're honored to take on that role. The recent announcement of the Grants Pass decision, followed by our governor's response, has reignited a strong interest in forming local partnerships to address the urgent needs of unsheltered individuals in our counties. Our newly elected coalition president, Greg Baker, responded to this by stating, "Governor Newsom's order raises the bar on the level of support needed and challenges the coalition and local jurisdictions to find additional methods of support. We are, therefore, developing specific responses to the displacement that occurs during encampment cleanups and enhancing cooperation among involved agencies." Greg dedicated a recent board meeting to begin crafting a strategic response to the displacement of unsheltered individuals, focusing not only on encampment cleanups, but on creating a comprehensive community-wide approach backed by sufficient resources. This mirrors the governor's leadership during the pandemic with Project Room Key, where he called for communities to place unsheltered individuals in non-congregate shelters using resources initially allocated for other projects. Those communities that responded were later rewarded with funds for permanent solutions through Project Home Key. The alarming growth of encampments, with more unsheltered people living in unsafe conditions without adequate sanitation, requires new community-driven solutions. We must address this emerging crisis with a collective response that has been delayed for far too long. I fully support Greg Baker's swift action in rallying coalition members in response to the Grants Pass decision, and I stand behind the governor's call for a comprehensive community response to end encampment living. If we build a strong, effective plan, the necessary resources will follow, drawing from housing funds, health funds, and private philanthropy. We hope others will join us in creating and executing this plan.
To the rest of our agenda and start with the approval of June 2024 minutes. I'm sorry, who was that?
Alejo.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Before we do that, can I just say that there were quite a few errors that was listed inside of the agencies that are associated to the people who were present. I did forward that list over to the coalition, and they had acknowledged their receipt of it. So if we can just alter the motion, if you don't mind, Supervisor.
Yeah, with those changes that you suggested. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any opposition? All right, motion moves forward. So we are in the midst of our NOFO competitions right now. Activities are moving forward, and applications are due today by 5 p.m. So please, for anybody out there that is applying, make sure that you get your applications in. If you're having any troubleshooting, right now is the time to contact staff. We are also requesting that we approve a special meeting on September 25th for the final recommendations of the rank and review for the 2024 NOFO competition in order for us to meet our submission deadlines. So I would ask for a motion to set a special meeting on September 25th.
I move.
Can I get you? So that was Roxanne first, and then Supervisor Alejo was the second. Is there any opposition to that 9:25 meeting?
I just wanted to clarify, the special meeting is to approve the results of the rank and review / appeals panel, or it's to appoint the panel?
So this special meeting, so I'm taking this in two motions because there's further discussion that needs to be had on the second portion of it. So the special meeting is going to be to approve the ranking of the applications that are submitted for the 2024 NOFO. The second portion of it would be, I need for the Leadership Council to, one, approve the people that we have and appoint some new folks, because we did not get much representation or volunteers. So I have two representatives. One is Alex from MCDSS, and then Tim Heaven. I need at least 3, but no more than 5. So I would like the Leadership Council to consider appointing some folks to sit on the rank and review panel so that we have a well-rounded and uneven number.
But Jill, to answer your first question, the current motion is for meeting on the 25th. I mean, Katrina answered it, but just to reiterate, meeting recommendations.
Sorry, Elaine, your response kind of cut out a little bit.
I'm sorry. On the 25th, you'll be voting on the recommendations for the prioritized list from the review committee, from the review panel.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. So all those that agree to this motion, say aye.
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 And any opposition? Okay, motion passes. Now to talk about the rank and review and appeals panel, like I said, we have 2 folks that have volunteered, which is not a great number for ranking these applications. I would like to request that the leadership council that is non-conflicted with COC competition applications, which is, I know, is very hard. So to help you guys all out with that, we will be meeting on September 3rd for a rank and review orientation. That's about 90 minutes long. And then you will have from the 3rd to the 12th to rank all applications and have them back into CHSP by noon for final deliberations on the 13th at 10 a.m. So, we're looking at September 3rd for about 90 minutes in the morning time, and then September 12th, full day of ranking, or you'll have the applications from the 3rd to the 12th, and then on the 13th at 10 a.m. deliberations would take place. If we do not get any volunteers, then we would have to stick with the 2 and hope that everything weighs out in the end.
I think it would be much better if we could appoint. They may not be volunteers, but at least we would have a sufficient panel for the review, and you wouldn't need a tiebreaker.
I agree.
Yeah, and putting on my COC advisor hat, a 2-person panel when HUD is looking at your competitive process, rating your process, a 2-person panel is not going to look like a strong process. And I see Hannah raising her hand. Did you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add, I believe the competition policies agreed such that you need a minimum of 3 panelists.
Yeah.
So why don't we entertain a motion to give Roxanne, if you don't have anybody on the Zoom, to give Roxanne authority to appoint 1, 2, 3 people, and maybe Roxanne, Katrina. My bad. Katrina, to appoint 1 to 3 people that can form that panel, and that way we just delegate that authority to you to appoint volunteers that you may be able to reach out to and get to commit to do the ranking.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor. We have Phyllis Katz here that will volunteer to participate. So that gives us our 3. Thank you so much, Phyllis, for joining in this process. So the motion on the table now would be to approve the rank and review panel to include Phyllis, Tim, and Alex as our 2024 rank and review panelists.
Can we possibly appoint 2 more so that we have a stronger presence from the COC?
Yeah, maybe we could put the motion would be to approve the 3 and up to 2 more, and we'll delegate that to Katrina to appoint to form the 5 if it's possible.
All right.
That would be the motion.
Thank you, Supervisor. So that's the motion on the table now.
Is there a second?
Can I get a second?
This is Jill. I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
I think I got to abstain, actually. Yeah, abstain.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. All right.
Tim, in a democracy, you can vote for yourself, but you're abstaining.
Okay, next slide. All right, for our YHDP updates, we're really excited to report out. As you all may know, BATS is leaving our community, which we are very sad about, and we appreciate all that they have done over the past couple of years in our community and wish them great life in the future. So we have opened up RFQ for 2 HUD contracts for YHDP that was still available since BATS was leaving. A lot of work was put into this process, and all to have 1 application come through from Housing Authority. So as of today, they YAB and CHSP staff has completed deliberations and is bringing up preliminary approval for their award once we get some clarifications regarding how they're treating SSO and rapid rehousing, as their budgets and narrative is kind of unclear, and there's some ineligible costs that have been proposed in their budgets, but we want to work with them to really iron that out. So we're asking for a preliminary approval pending the clarifications to move this contract forward. And if you guys have any questions, I'm here for it. Can I get a motion to preliminarily accept HACM as the new YHDP recipient of BATS contract?
I'll motion.
I'll second. Alejo.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Motion passes. We are in our 100-day challenge. So, CHSP, the County of Monterey, and the Housing Authority are working diligently to implement a 100-day challenge to house those that are aging out of foster youth with our FYI vouchers that are operated by HACM. This activity is ramping up to go live on September 9th. Vouchers by December 2024. So that's a quick update on what is going on with our 100-day challenge and our FYI vouchers here in our community. Do you guys have any questions? And thank you, Roxanne, for really putting in all that hard work and really convening us and getting our team ramped up for that. Much appreciation always. Moving on to our HAP updates, if we can get next slide. So this is a pretty hefty, discussion. We're going to do our best to stay on time. So staff has been meeting with sub-recipients to evaluate their spending plans and programmatic activities over the past couple of months. And as promised, we have provided council members with a detailed update of where we are with HAP rounds 1 through 4 to date in the read-ahead packet. So you guys can go ahead and check out PDF pages 19 through 24 for further detail. So right now in HAP 1, we are 89% expended as of August, with the remaining balances sitting with the Central Coast Center for Independent Living and San Benito County. This grant is set to expire June 2025. So we have been meeting with these two organizations to align their spending plans with their expenditure dates, and we will be bringing back any updates in December if any reallocations are recommended. For this project, we are not seeking any action. 100% of our admin has been expended, and 100% of the interest has been allocated. For HAP 2, we are currently 49% expended with an expenditure date of June 2026. So we have 3 of the 5 contracts that are still in operation, and staff is I have more. So of those three open contracts, we have Cecil with Youth Rapid Rehousing, Step Up Salinas Home Key, and then San Benito County's Homebound project. As you can see here, this project has not started operating, but while meeting with San Benito County, we have found that they are needing some amendments to their contract that require some amendments to the state. So I'll go a little further into that in just a moment with the motion that we're requesting, but we currently have $81,000 in interest, and $3,000 of that is currently unallocated. The 2 motions on the table for this contract is to, 1, submit. I'm asking approval to submit some categorical changes to HCD. If you want more, further details, that will be in our read-ahead packet. But quick overview on that is San Benito County needs to change their program from a new navigation / emergency shelter to permanent supportive housing. So this change really does align with our Leave Me Home plan and increasing permanent housing in our community. And then with Step Up Home Key, they want to change from permanent supportive housing to operating subsidies. Elaine, can you go a little bit more into this project?
Sure. So this is one of our favorites because it involves Shangri-La spending money on a home key project that is now not going to happen. But what Step Up and the Housing Authority are doing is partnering to do scattered site tenant-based vouchers. Is this the one going to scattered site? This is the site-based improvement.
This is the site-based improvement. This is not the one with Housing Authority. That's round 3. So
sorry.
Yeah.
This is so. There are 2 of these that involve some of the same folks. So this one is wanting to convert into operating subsidies in order. Let me just check.
I know. It's okay.
So some of it is going to do acquisition and rehab of the days in and converting that into permanent housing. And then the balance of it will be used for support services, which is what Step Up was doing in the interim hotel. And the interim site was going to get converted into permanent housing, and because of the debacle with Shangri-La, it can't be. And I think that's the one everyone's being moved out of and into the Days Inn, which is going to then get converted into permanent housing. So again, these are changes in category with the state, but not changes in intent. The intent was to do permanent housing for highly vulnerable people, and we're just needing to do it in a different way.
Right.
And so this enables the spending to work in that way. And so that's what we're asking approval for today.
Yes. So 2 categorical changes, one for San Benito County and one for Step Up Homebase Salinas is the motion on the table.
I move, but I do want to clarify something. Because King City is Days Inn, and the folks that are being displaced from Salinas will not be relocated to King City, to Days Inn. But just wanted to clarify that. Days Inn, I believe, is HAP 3.
King City is HAP 3?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I know.
All the home keys are very confusing, but I am in it, so I can help.
I did it too, and my laptop was very confusing. It jumped ahead to the explanation for the.
It's okay, but I do move to support this action.
I had just a question on the we have 2 motions right now, right?
One for to make 2 categorical changes, one to Step Up and one for San Benito counties.
And San Benito County has two items, right?
For HAP 2, yes.
We're on HAP 2.
Yeah. So the one where it's the outreach reports challenges and operating program through cars. I just was kind of curious what the plan was there. I'm just not sure what the motion is there.
So if you look down to the page, the action is to change the categories because they were operating as an emergency shelter and they want to operate as a permanent supportive housing program. That's the motion. But you're talking more of like what the struggles were about their program and all these things, right? I think you're really talking about HAP 3 as well. There's lots of HAPs, and these organizations are funded for pretty much every single one of them.
So this, Tim, this in HAP 2, and if there's anyone on from San Benito County that can speak to this, but this is my understanding is that this was going to be a transitional housing program at a site, and San Benito had trouble getting the construction off the ground, but it has now, and it wants to operate it as permanent supportive housing instead of transitional housing, which is more consistent with the Leave Me Home plan. So yes, that's why staff is recommending this change.
Absolutely. That is exactly what it is. Can I get a motion? So we had Roxanne first.
The motion, Alejo seconded it.
Okay, thank you so much. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you so much. Motion carries. If we can go to next slide. So for HAP 3, we are currently 39% expended, and 2 of the 12 are 10 of 12 contracts are still open. So I just want to let you guys know there was an error on my read ahead page. So the admin is 0% expended at this time. We do have plans to spend that down next fiscal year. There's 10 contracts that are currently open and with an abundance of them under, our 60% threshold, so we didn't bring anything to you guys or flagged anything that was lower, that was higher than 60%. So those programs are San Benito County with 2 programs out there. We have Community Human Services with 2 programs, and then Step Up King City. And we know why Step Up King City is behind in their spending. So we have met with all of these organizations and are giving them time to spend their funds down, and they'll have to submit by December their action plans into meeting their June 2026 expenditure date. Right now, the actions are going to be a little more in depth. So we're looking to make some changes to Step Up's contract. They would like to move $465,000 from their operating subsidies to permanent supportive housing / innovative housing innovations, and contract that out with HACM. So this is the project in which they're working together to move those folks from D's into a permanent housing situation. And then with San Benito County, they will have to really look over their budget and see what their project is really looking like. So they need to look at their program design and see if it is going to align with their spending requirements. It is looking like there might be a categorical change that we will know more of once San Benito County confirms the changes needed to their contract. Do you have anything to add in there?
Yeah, so what I would just add on that, and Tim to respond, they designed a program that included street outreach, but also some operating subsidies. So the intention was that street outreach could then support moving into housing. And the budget with the state is all outreach. And so what we may need to do is clarify to the state that some of this is outreach and some of this is rapid rehousing. And so what we're asking the Leadership Council to do today is to authorize us to make those adjustments, and they would be in accordance with the Leave Me Home plan and in accordance with what our commitments to the state have been. And again, this is trying to align with what San Benito's program design was, and it would use more state money for rapid rehousing than it currently looks like in our state contract. So we know the state will like that. And so that motion is really sort of kind of cleaning up the contract and making sure the state is in agreement with how it is we want to use it. Does that help clarify your question, Tim?
Yeah. Is it just because they couldn't keep up with the? Originally, we sent the contract, the original contract. I mean, does these changes it doesn't always look the best, right? I mean, from the original contract, changes.
I mean, I would think that the state understands that things change and that we need to be able to pivot, and as long as we're staying in alignment with their contract requirements and their approved eligible categories, homelessness is ever changing and we have to pivot to that. And sometimes, our understanding of something may not be some recipients understood.
Yeah.
We have Enrique in now. Hi, Enrique. Welcome.
I have a comment. Is that fine?
Yeah, hopefully I didn't misrepresent what we're trying to do with that HAP 3 contract.
So for HAP 3, I just wanted to mention that when we applied for this application, we applied for both rapid rehousing and outreach, which that is exactly what is reflected in our contract with a coalition. So we been expending our other rapid rehousing funds. So we are there's either 3 or 5 that recently has been housed, and with rapid rehousing and rental subsidies, it adds up fairly quickly. So from looking at my projections with those that are receiving subsidized rent and subsidies and our ongoing outreach, we have a 2 staff member team that goes out consistently. So my projections look pretty healthy as far as expenditures for this year. So I wanted to make that clear. So it's not like we're changing gears. That's exactly what we applied for.
Thank you, Enrique, and you said that so much more clearly than I did, so I appreciate that. And so it's more making sure and having the authorization of the Leadership Council, making sure that we can align that design with what the state has approved. And we're sure the state will, we're confident the state will approve that adjustment.
I guess the question was like, what's the operating cost going to go towards, and is there any way to still utilize it for outreach?
Yeah, we're not changing gears. We're still doing outreach and rehousing.
So it's getting to the state what the design of the program already is in San Benito County. The split between outreach and rapid rehousing, we're not changing that. I mean, potentially fine-tuning it, but probably not changing it. It's just making sure right now to the state, it looks like it's totally funded under outreach.
Right. And we want to make sure that we're doing that correctly. So those are the 2 motions on the table. We'll change some categorical changes with step up and potential for San Benito County. We just don't want to have to come back if we have to make those changes in their approved category. So if we can get a motion on that.
LeVar, make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you so much. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
This is Roxanne, I'm abstaining.
So am I, Enrique.
Thank you so much. Motion carries. HAP 4 contracts took a bit more time than expected in developing and executing, and is currently 6%. Currently at 6% expended, with 2 of the 10 contracts fully contracted and spending down. CHSP is working diligently to get all those contracts out, and is still under negotiations with those agencies. Let's see.
No action.
There are no actions to be take place today, but we just wanted to flag that there's $56,000 in unallocated funds at this time. So, if anybody has any questions, staff will continue to monitor all of these projects, paying particular attention to our HAP 1, which has the closest expenditure deadline, and we will report back if there's any major changes needed. Thank you all. I'd like to take a moment to thank Homebase and Homebase staff for joining us today. We'll pass the meeting over to them to discuss the CARS evaluations report, its recommendations, and implementation strategies.
And thanks everybody for being here today and giving us this space, share an update on the CARS evaluation project, and speak a little bit more about the report too. So my name is Alex. I am one of the team members who's been working on this evaluation since November, and I'm here with a couple of my colleagues, Mark, Maura, and Riley. I think because we have a short amount of time, we're not going to do a whole lot of introductions, but just want to let you know that these are the folks that have been working on this project. So All right, so today's agenda, we are going to provide a little bit of background on the CARS evaluation. We're going to review some highlighted evaluation report findings and recommendations. We'll briefly review data sources and stakeholder engagement, and then we'll talk a little bit about next steps. So a little bit of background on CARS evaluation. This is a visual representation of a coordinated entry system. And your community, of course, y'all refer to it as CARS, but it's actually the same thing. So these are the four core elements. We talk about access, assessment, prioritization, and referral. And of course, it is the VS or CARS is an important process through which people experiencing homelessness get connected to access to access resources within your system. And so why evaluate CARS? Well, for one, it is required by HUD for any, or it is required by HUD to do an annual CES evaluation. But of course, here in your community, there in the last few years, there's been a significant support in your community for the enhancement of CARS assessment and processes. So this really led to the evaluation, to this year's evaluation. And the main goal for this evaluation, of course, is to ensure that CARS is accessible to and that it prioritizes the most vulnerable households in your communities, and that it operates effectively to connect folks to appropriate referrals and appropriate services. And through this evaluation, we examine the strengths and opportunities related to your system in relation to the four core elements I discussed in the previous slide, which again are access, assessment, prioritization, referral, and capacity. And then just to give you a brief overview of the timeline, we started this evaluation back in the fall of 2023, and we ended it in June. And you all should have received the report and the materials packet. Hopefully you'll have the opportunity to take a look and review that report. Okay, so now we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about the report. And so a few findings. One, there is limited access to CARS assessment, especially for folks that are unsheltered and people that live in rural areas of your county, so San Benito, as well as North and South Monterey County. We also found that clients generally do not understand how CARS works. There's a bit of confusion around how it works. We also found that the assessment questions, so we all refer to as the VS cadet, can be confusing, lack relevance, and may be re-traumatizing to folks. And another important finding is that provider roles are not always clear during each CARS phase. So these are the main findings that we thought were important to highlight with you all today. For the recommendations, again, they were all in the report. There were 35 in total, and they were based on the evaluation findings, some of which I just mentioned to you in the previous slide. But today we're going to spend some time briefly covering 10 of those 10 recommendations, recommendation buckets. But you can, again, see the full list of the recommendations and details on them in the report. So, again, if you haven't already, please take a look. And then we will also, and the prioritization of the recommendations will take place during the implementation phase, so that hasn't yet occurred. And the goal is to hopefully get this report to be approved. So, by you all today. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. Okay. Thank you. So the recommendations, as I said, there was 10 big buckets. We're not going to go over in detail because there's a lot of content. So we'll just briefly touch base today. But one of them was to increase access to CARS assessment. And an example of this could be through increasing funding for outreach teams. We know that outreach teams are really important in expanding access. So that's one of the recommendations. Another is to improve universal understanding of how and where CARS operates. Again, one of the findings was a lack of understanding of CARS as a system. So that's another rec. Number 3, enhance CARS training and information dissemination for CARS providers. So this can look like clearly defining roles and responsibilities, and that for clients, for providers, for CHSP staff. I think 4th recommendation is to build out triage processes and incorporate housing problem solving. So number 5 is to redesign an assessment tool and prioritization process. I think example, to replace or to be more specific, to replace the VX put out with a new assessment tool. And this is something that we heard over and over and over again as we did our stakeholder engagement. So definitely a top priority. Number 6, to strengthen housing match and problem solving processes. And then number 7, to clarify and improve internal workflow responsibilities and processes related to prioritization and referral. Next slide. And I'm actually going to pass it on to my colleague Mark, who will walk us through the rest of the slides and the rest of the recommendations.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Mora. I work with Alex and the rest of the team at Homebase. So glad to be speaking in front of you all. I'm just taking over this slide. Again, we're just briefly touching on what we're calling recommendation buckets. There were over 30 recommendations, so couldn't cover them all in this meeting, especially with the few short minutes that we have. But I'm just going to highlight the rest of those kind of categories of recommendations. So 8 is expanding system feedback opportunities and loops, both for providers and for the clients the system is serving. Enhance system support and oversight. One example of that is developing a work group or utilizing the existing work group there to regularly monitor CAR's data and make improvement recommendations. And then finally, improve trust with and safety and quality of life of unhoused people. I got several comments from unhoused folks just about how to improve safety and quality of life and trust in the system. So those are the recommendation buckets. Next, I'm going to move to data sources and stakeholder engagement. Again, if you want to look through the recommendations in full, please check out the material packet. And I'm just going to briefly go over these slides. So we did some quantitative data analysis. We reviewed coordinated entry data in HMIS, or the Homeless Management Information System, enrollments with the dates listed there. We also did document review. We looked at internal and external documents related to PARs. We did deep stakeholder engagement about January to March of this year. We talked with different stakeholders, did focus groups, informant interviews. Also, I'll talk about in the next slide a CARS evaluation work group that we convened. And so some of the stakeholder kind of groups are listed there. Just highlight a couple. Of course, talk to people with past or current lived experience of homelessness, providers, talk to outreach staff, talk to folks from different county agencies. So just talk to a wide breadth of stakeholders. And in order to generate that list of stakeholders, I should mention that we talked to CARS Oversight, and we came to this group. I think it was in November or December of last year. And then the CARS evaluation work group, so we convened a work group that we met for about 4 months, and you see the stakeholders listed there. The purpose of the work group was to kind of oversee the evaluation report process, including providing additional context, generating some action steps. And so that group got to look at the preliminary findings and then the evaluation recommendations after we drafted them for the report. And speaking of which, we actually have Enrique here, who's a leadership council member and also was serving on the CARS evaluation work group. We want to introduce and have just say a couple words about the report.
Thank you very much, Mark and Alex. First of all, it was a great process that we went through regarding the CARS evaluation, and I think the recommendations make a lot of sense. So what I wanted to just highlight a couple of points of what we in San Benito County have seen with CARS, and then how the recommended strategies are really meeting the needs of some of these points. So first of all, whenever we come in contact with the general public, whether it's clients or organizations, or elected officials or anyone from the community, people usually don't quite understand how cars work, and they just don't. So I think, one of the strategies that is being recommended is increased funding to for outreach teams, particularly in underserved regions of the county, develop and maintain resources that list the agencies to conduct assessments and ensure cars providers understand how really cars work. And part of that is to effectively educate the providers as far as the cars process. So I think by having these specific strategies and also including in-person training to better understand cars, I think will really, really help. So as you provide more support, more assistance, and explaining this process, I think will lead into more service providers and the general public and clients with a better understanding of how it works. Some of them feel, well, just because I'm in cars, I'm going to get housed. Sometimes, that's exactly what the goal is, expand resources and connection to other organizations. But because of the housing crisis, I mean, that's something that we're all facing. So, but in general, I think this strategy does meet our goal here. And also with clients being able to provide information on printed both in English and Spanish and in other languages as well. That's very important, and I'm glad it's outlined here in the recommended strategies. The other thing that we face is I mean, in general, we have had some challenges. We here in San Benito County, whenever we get referrals, and some of these had to do with outdated information, maybe not being clear that housing might be available in San Benito County. They don't want to move. But I do want to say is part of the process with the coalition, we've managed to troubleshoot that in a sense that we're working really closely together and we're getting a lot more quality referrals. So one of the strategies that is stated is compile a list of mandated eligible requirements. I mean, when you do that, you make sure that if we're have an open house for a permanent supportive housing program, well, we know they need to be chronically homeless. We know they have to have a documented disability. And if the mandated requirements are not listed properly, then it's going to be real difficult to get clients that will be qualifying for that program. And we used to see that, but after really looking at it things closer, that this strategy in itself will make sure that the referrals lead to being a lot more quality, and thus we would assist the individuals, residents, families and such better. So those are just a couple of examples that I feel that these strategies will assist and improve the car system.
I just want to talk about next steps in regards to the report and recommendations. So I believe today the Leadership Council is going to be considering approving the report and the recommendations. And just want to highlight a few things. After that, moving forward, like Alex mentioned, the goal is to implement the recommendations should they be approved. One of the priority focus areas in the community is redesigning CAR's prioritization process and assessment tool. Currently, Homebase is working with CHSP to develop or convene a prioritization and assessment tool or PAT work group to oversee the design process. And the outreach for that has already started. There are a number of folks that have already indicated interest from various stakeholder groups, including people who do outreach, providers, and we're looking for just a breadth of different folks who have insights on the vulnerabilities of people being served by the system to help redesign those processes, and of course making sure that there are people who have lived experience of homelessness as well. And I do want to pass it to Katrina briefly for this part, because I believe we're still trying to recruit people to serve or meet particular kind of stakeholder voices in this group. So I'll pass it to you, Katrina.
And I just want to be
Thank you.
cognizant of time. We got about 15 more minutes, so if we could try to get through this item pretty quickly. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Supervisor. We just have 3 open categories that we need for the work group. I'll continue to make my rounds out, but we're really looking for people who can speak to the vulnerability of those experiencing homelessness, like what makes them vulnerable and what factors should be considered while building a prioritization tool for housing resources. So I'm looking for folks from behavioral health, outreach, and then someone who has aged out of transitional age youth. I've put this out to the community before. I'll put it out again. But if you are one of those folks that would like to participate in building out our prioritization tool, please contact me. Thank you.
I do have a question. Thank you. I'd love to know why it is that the Black Cars applicants have a significantly longer waiting time for services than other people.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Riley Mee from the Homebase team. So we don't yet know why that trends exist. Our statistical analysis was we only had enough data to show correlations, and we did do stakeholder engagement to try and figure out this piece of why it's happening, but some of our recommendations do encourage more equity and racial equity analysis to try and figure out why we're seeing this disparity. And it was interesting because we weren't seeing this disparity in other stages of the CARS process. So for now, just we're keeping an eye on it.
Thank you. I think it's incredibly important to have equity built into the redesign, not just for single activities like we did an evaluation and here's the report. Something that is going to actually go with this system, start to finish, all the time, is constantly now I'm losing my words, is constantly reevaluated during the entire use of the CARS system. I'd like to see an equity plan given appropriate attention, because when we intentionally or unintentionally discriminate against people of different race, color, or appearance in the very beginning when they're being evaluated, that it affects their outcomes without us even realizing that it's affecting their outcomes, is what I'm trying to say. So I apologize for not being able to use my better words right now, but I would really like to call for, if we're looking for redesigning this and developing a new tool moving forward, it needs to have a pairing with its own racial disparities and equity plan.
So any other questions on this from our board members or comments? Seeing none, we'll have a motion to approve, to accept the report, the recommendations, and the implementation plan.
So moved. Mia Casey.
Okay. Second. You got that? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those against? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. That matter is approved by consensus. Now we'll go to the next item, which is going into our Lead Me Home Plan Addendum Focus Strategies.
Hi all, I am Hannah Gossett. I am a consultant here at Focus Strategies. My colleague Allison is on the call as well, but in the interest of time, I'm going to just jump straight in, see if we can get through this quickly for you all. So a quick overview of our process working on the addendum this year. In June and July, we started with developing a draft of the addendum to your Lead Me Home Plan and gathering feedback in July from various stakeholders in your community. Now, we're here in August trying to finalize the addendum, and we're in progress on updating the report on year 3 progress. In September, our plan is to be drafting the year 4 action plan and gather input on that. And in October, we will be seeking a vote on the Year 3 report and Year 4 action plan. Some background on the Lead Me Home plan for anyone who's newer to the community. In July of 2021, CHSP launched the COC's Lead Me Home plan update, which laid out a roadmap for your efforts to reduce homelessness through July 2026. Each year, CHSP has reported on progress made using the strategies outlined in the plan update and developed an action plan for the upcoming year. Last year, the community went through an additional planning process for the application for funding to the state of California for the 5th round of HAP funding. That process did somewhat mirror a strategic planning effort in that they were gathering feedback from the community to inform actions for that plan. Our process to develop the addendum included starting with reviewing the annual progress reports and the HAP 5 application. We then gathered some information from CHSP staff regarding the HAP 5 process and the Year 3 accomplishments. We then presented a draft addendum and Year 3 report for feedback from stakeholders in 2 sessions. One was a general session open to all COC partners and stakeholders, in which we had about 40, a little bit more than 40 attendees in total. And the second was a feedback session that was specifically targeted for the LEAD and Y4A members, for which we had about 7 attendees. An overview of the addendum. The addendum is intended to guide the remaining 2 years of the Lead Me Home plan, with some adjustments to account for progress made in the community in the last 3 years and new information gathered and strategies and such implemented in your community in recent years. The addendum includes all strategies from the Lead Me Home plan update with some adjustments for progress made and to refine and bring forth a stronger equity focus that is more targeted and representative of the current landscape in your community. Additionally, it includes activities referenced in the HAP 5 application that was submitted to the state so that you can align the HAP 5 application and the addendum to also include the strategies for each of those years. The red line text that you'll see throughout the document was included in your packet and is similar to the screen here, or this image here, was just to reflect the changes made to the original plan strategies so that there was a transparency in the process. Additionally, the addendum includes goals and measures to track progress in the coming 2 years, including continued reporting from the targets in the Lead Me Home plan update, which includes some homelessness reduction targets based on the total point in time count and PIT by county, program performance for emergency shelters, transitional housing, and rapid rehousing, which includes entries from homelessness, length of stay, and exit rate to permanent housing. And then housing targets that look at system permanent housing needs based on the coordinated entry system data, and a breakdown of the households that were housed in that year using existing rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing, as well as other new or other inventory, which is also referred to as additional housing placement. Those additional housing placements are then broken down by new construction and existing inventory for housing subsidies, shared housing, housing problem solving, basically other ways that folks can resolve their homelessness. And the new construction numbers are broken down to be looked at by county. In addition to looking at the same metrics from the Lead Me Home plan update, we included some new metrics to begin tracking and just keeping an eye on in the coming years. This includes entries to homelessness prevention, exits from safe parking to permanent housing, program performance targets for street outreach, which are the same that we just listed off for emergency shelter, transitional housing, and rapid rehousing, as well as a demographic breakdown for all of the point in time count data and those program performance targets for emergency shelter, transitional housing, rapid rehousing, and street outreach.
So let's have a motion to approve.
Labar, second.
Okay, second by Mayor Labar. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those against? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that work on that addendum. We appreciate it. We're going to go to some quick reports here. So first is on our census, our point of time census release timeline.
Due for time, so we're going to roll it out on September 5th and are calling a special meeting to have you guys all view the report, have time to ask questions before it starts rolling out to the general public. So we need an action to set this 9/5 meeting. It will be at 10 a.m. on September 5th. Can we get a motion?
I think we could just set the chair could call a special meeting. I don't think we need a formal vote for it. But it's good to inform everybody because I know everybody's schedule is very busy. But this will be at 10 in the morning, and this is where we're able to release the report earlier that morning. Katrina, do you know what time we could email it to the board? Because this meeting's at 10. Can we send it to them like at 9 or 8?
I can send it at 9 a.m.
And that way, if you guys have a chance, I know it's not ideal, but because once we send it out, we know it'll get out to the press. That's why we're having this meeting at 10. And then, as the memo points out, we also have a scheduled Zoom meeting for mayors and for city managers. So that way, we could also inform the city leadership of this report that will come out later that day at 1:30 p.m. So we don't want nobody to be blindsided and get calls from the press to explain the numbers for the cities for different parts of the county and for both San Benito and Monterey. So that's what the intent is. Present it to our members, our coalition first, our leadership council first, and then the cities at 12, and then publicly released to the press at 1:30 p.m.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I'll send a calendar invite to everybody, and then at 9 a.m. the report will be sent out to you guys.
It will be interesting because we had 2 declines in the last 2 point time counts. I don't think this report will show that, so that's why it's important for all of you to pay attention to the report as providers, as staff, as cities, as county, both counties. We need to look at what those numbers tell us, and because there will be a lot of questions from the press, from the public, and so we're also Katrina, can we also make sure we set up that meeting? I know we're short on time, but maybe on Tuesday, if it's possible, with Nick Pasculi to just kind of come up with some major points that our folks could use if questions come up about the report, maybe some talking points that I think will be helpful for our members.
I'll reach out. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was so we'll set up that meeting for that day, September 5th at 10 o'clock. Now we'll go to that report on our annual homelessness summit, and that one also has some changes recommended by Katrina.
Yes, so after careful evaluation of our current projects and staff capacity, staff is recommending that the Leadership Council postpone the October 2024 summit and permanently reschedule it to the springtime. This proposed date would be April of 2025, as our current focus is maintaining existing funding streams and securing new funding opportunities. So right now we're facilitating about 3 very competitive funding competitions, estimated about $15.2 million if we're awarded all these fundings. So this shift will ensure a well-planned and meaningful event for all participants and will take place just after the federal reporting season and right before COC NOFO and not in between it all. So does anybody have any questions on that? I'm sorry I'm going through this because we're at time, but I would ask for a motion if one is needed to permanently move it to the springtime and postpone till April.
This is Roxanne. I appreciate the coalition's ability to really focus on bringing much needed funding into this community. So I so move.
and I'll second that. And it's good to have a motion on it because this would have been our third homelessness summit, and they've been well attended and well organized. I believe great panels. We have some good momentum, but there is a lot going on right now for Katrina and her staff, even for Roxanne and for some of our providers. We not only these funding cycles, but there's some other challenges with the Project Home Keys, some changes at the Sheriff Center, King City, South County efforts as well as one of those home keys. So I get it that there's a lot of on the table right now, and so if staff needs some more time so that we could do this right and do it in the spring, and also raise the resources needed, I fully support that. Any other comments or discussions on postponing the summit to the spring? Okay, seeing none. Any comments from the public? If not, we'll all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those against? Abstentions? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. Thank you. We're down to I think one more item here on governance, to vote on adopting our equity framework SMART goals.
Yes, so Lavisha Franklin came last meeting in June to present her work on equity framework, speaking to the things that Jill and Phyllis has brought up, and she has brought together some 6 SMART goals of implementation. All of this is in your read-ahead packet, and we are recommending that we adopt these SMART goals for implementation into our COC committees for our community. Next slide, you will see all of them laid out, as well as inside your read-ahead packet.
And Katrina, on some of these, the SMART goals to adopt, some of them you have what we still need to implement later, right? So some of these are going to come to the Services Committee, the Governance Committee.
Yes.
So there's going to be some more vetting of some of these goals to actually work on the implementation, right?
Yeah, so this is we're adopting it so we can start the implementation. All of these SMART goals are assigned to its prospective committee to roll out. So there will be work that is attached to this and making sure that it is done effectively and efficiently so that we can be a more equitable continuum of care.
Thank you for all the work that went into putting these equity goals and plan for us to adopt and incorporate into this COC. If there's no questions, then we just need a motion to approve it. Then we can start working on implementation in the months ahead.
I'll motion to approve.
Second. I'll second.
Okay, Jill, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those against? Abstentions? Okay, motion is adopted or carries unanimously. Any quick announcements here before we end? I just wanted to, first of all, really thank the Housing Authority, Roxanne, the Coalition. As I was alluding to earlier, there's been a lot of work, especially on these Project Home Keys that have been a challenge, that are subject to litigation by the Department of Justice because of Shangri-La not doing what it should have. But it's really put these projects in a very, very difficult position by other entities taking over some of these properties. So our team has been working, many of our partners here on this Zoom have been working very hard, and I just wanted to really acknowledge that work. Outside of that, Roxanne has been very busy on the Small Homes Project. There was another grant we got in collaboration with Santa Cruz County and the city of Watsonville. That's not easy because there's always haters that don't like these projects, but we're moving forward on that. And so I know it takes a lot of patience and work, but especially, as Roxanne mentioned earlier, for Zuleika Boykin for really stepping up in a big way and being a partner and thinking outside the box to help us take care of these vulnerable residents, but also some of these projects to be able to make sure that they stay in the hands of entities that will keep them for its intended use. So I didn't want to end this meeting without acknowledging all the good work that is happening in very difficult situations. So any other quick announcements before we close this meeting? All right, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for your work.